Hello, Lee again.
Hi, I'm Megan.
We are here to talk to you about logical fallacies.
The first logical fallacy we're going to talk to you about today is ad hominem.
Ad hominem is the fallacy of attempting to refute an argument by attacking an opponent personally. Not physically necessarily, but personally attacking their character or a negative reputation that they have and trying to disprove their argument through that.
So basically it'd be like me saying you should disregard everything that Leland just said because he's a massive flirt on campus, and so you can't really just trust a thing that comes out of his mouth.
She attacked my personal reputation, whether or not it may be true, and tried to disprove me that way. And that's a fallacy. You can't do that. Not valid. The second logical fallacy we are going to talk to you about is the appeal to tradition.
This is a fallacy that a standpoint, situation, or action is correct simply because it has always been that way. Because people have always thought that way, or because it continues to serve one particular group very well.
Yeah, so saying, because women have always gotten paid less than men, it should be that way continuously. We shouldn't change it, because it's always been that way.
Misogynist. Don't listen to anything he says.
I'm a flirt. So, that's also not valid. You can't say something is right simply because it has been that way forever. All right? Moving on.
Yeah, begging the question.
So begging the question is also called circular reasoning, and circular reasoning is the fallacy of repeating the same idea or sentence in other words. So saying something like, the witchcraft problem is the most urgent challenge in the world today. Why? Because witches threaten our very souls. So I'm attacking witches both ways. I'm saying witches are bad and they're a problem. I'm just doing it in different words. So I didn't really ask a question besides why, and my answer was the same thing I had said before. And that's circular reasoning. Doesn't get anyone anywhere, and therefore not valid.
The next logical fallacy we'll look at is either or. And this essentially provides only a dichotomy for people to choose from, a binary. So you only provide two alternatives for people to choose from, when in reality there's obviously often many different alternatives or many different choices for people to choose from. So it'd be like essentially saying you're either with me or against me. You can only be a liberal or conservative, a Democrat or a Republican, and there's nothing in between.
Not valid. All right, the next logical fallacy that we're going to talk about is called non sequitur, and not only is that a great comic strip in the Sunday newspaper,
Yes.
but it is also, what? Not valid. Non sequitur is the fallacy of offering reasons or conclusions that have no logical connection to the argument at hand. So if you're trying to prove that, oh my gosh, Hard Times by Charles Dickens is a Gothic novel, and you bring up Sir Gawain and the Green Knight as a fairy tale, that doesn't really have any logical connection to your argument at hand, and therefore is taking up space in your paper, makes you sound confused, and is what?
Not valid.
Not valid, that's right.
The next logical fallacy we're going to discuss is a hasty generalization, which is a common fallacy of incorrectly applying one or two examples to a larger group in general. It always moves from the particular to the greater group. So, for example, it'd be like saying, Lee is a misogynist, therefore all men are misogynists.
I take personal offense to that statement. It's also not valid.
Not valid.
Not
valid.
valid.
Not valid.
All right. We're in the final stretch. The next logical fallacy that we want to talk about is the red herring, which is an irrelevant distraction, which attempts to mislead an argument by bringing up an unrelated, emotionally loaded point. So, I don't know. I think politics, and if someone's trying to prove their argument, it's a little mix of ad hominem, attacking personal character, trying to evoke an emotional response out of someone. So bringing up, I don't know, a liberal and then linking that immediately to abortion or something extremely negative like that, and trying to invoke an emotional response in their reader for someone to agree with their argument instead of agreeing with their argument because it's a well thought out one.
Yeah, it'd be kind of like saying, you don't want to outlaw guns? Well, then you're killing all the babies.
Yeah. Wild and crazy.
Not valid.
The next logical fallacy we're going to address is the slippery slope.
The slippery slope.
Slippery slope. And this is a common fallacy that essentially says that one thing or even one small step in one direction is inevitably going to lead to this giant fallout. It's going to kind of roll the snowball down the hill into a ginormous snowball. So for example, if you say, providing contraception to children is going to make them all go out and become very, very sexually promiscuous, and there's going to be tons of babies out of wedlock, and everybody's going to be getting abortions. And obviously that's a slippery slope argument because one small thing, providing contraception, has overpopulated the entire world.
That's a really good example. I was going to go back to the witch metaphor and say, if we don't stop and frisk people we suspect as witches for wands and other talismans, then everyone in the world will be a witch soon, or a slave to Satan. Oh, you see that?
I can see
Started
it.
with the stop and frisk.
Yeah.
That's a relevant
Stop and
topic
frisk.
today.
It's relevant.
All you New Yorkers out there.
TSA.
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 All right. Anyway, now we're really going to wrap it up. Final logical fallacy is the straw man, which is offering a counter argument, which you're supposed to do. Good move in an essay.
Yes, always.
Entertain the other side, but you do it in a way where you bring up a super weak point that is incredibly easy for you to disprove. Like by bringing up, the opposite side's weakest argument and debasing that, it doesn't really do the other side any justice. And it sort of kind of makes you look like a jerk in your writing sometimes. Because you're just bringing up their weakest point and attacking that.
Not giving due credit.
Not giving due credit. And if you have an opinion that's worth proving, you should show how it stands up to their strongest point anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, not valid and not cool. So yeah, those are logical fallacies. Cheers to you, writers and readers out there.
Just a quick disclaimer, Lee's not a misogynist.
Thank you very, very
You're
much.
welcome. You're welcome.
Yes.